Hi, my name is Alicia Torres,
And I'm Nigel Pang.
and we're Group 22. Our work of art is Starry Night by Vincent van Gogh. Vincent van Gogh was born March 30th, 1853, in the Netherlands and died July 29th, 1890. He was a post-impressionist painter whose work, notable for its beauty, emotion, and color, highly influenced 20th century art. His output includes portraits, self-portraits, landscapes, still lifes, and olive trees and cypresses. Critics largely ignored his work until after his presumed suicide in 1890. In just over a decade, he produced more than 2,100 artworks, including around 860 oil paintings. Throughout his life, he struggled with mental illness and remained poor and virtually unknown. In 1880, he lived in Brussels and decided to become an artist. And in 1886, he moved to Paris and was inspired by the color and light of Impressionist art. Other works of art of his include Irises in 1889, The Potato Eaters in 1885, Starry Night over the Rhone, and Café Terrace at Night, both in 1888. The Starry Night is an oil-on canvas and depicts the view from the east-facing window of Van Gogh's insane asylum room at the Saint-Remy de Provence, just before sunrise, with the addition of an idealized village. The subject can be recognized as the view from his room if you were to have prior knowledge of his stay at the asylum. It is relevant to the artist because it is a view that Van Gogh saw many times outside his window. The work was executed in June of 1889, and this was when Van Gogh voluntarily admitted himself to an insane asylum after the self-mutilation of his left ear. A local newspaper, dated December 30th, 1888, recorded Vincent's self-mutilation and stated that last Sunday night at 11:30, a painter named Vincent van Gogh appeared at the Maison de Tolérance No. 1 and asked for a girl named Rachel. He handed her his ear with these words, "Keep this object like a treasure," and then disappeared. The police, informed of these events, which could only be the work of an unfortunate madman, looked the next morning for the individual and found him in bed with scarcely a sign of life. He was then taken to the hospital without delay. The work of art of Starry Night could not have been created at another time before he was admitted, since it is a view from his bedroom window after being at the Saint-Remy de Provence. The time of the work's execution does not matter to understanding the subject.
The material and medium of Starry Night is an oil painting done on canvas. Oil painting has multiple benefits to other forms of painting, including oil on canvas dries faster, lasts longer, and retains brighter pigments from the paint. The art style is post-impressionism. The dictionary defines post-impressionism as the work or style of a varied group of late 19th century and early 20th century artists, including Van Gogh. They reacted against the naturalisms of the Impressionists to explore color, line, and form, and the emotional response of the artist, a concern that led to the development of Expressionism. Starry Night is done by a single contributor, meaning it was done solely by Vincent van Gogh. The material was easily attainable and accessible to Van Gogh even in his stay at the Saint-Remy de Provence Insane Asylum. The material and medium are essential to understanding the artwork because they are very classic Van Gogh techniques and styles. The size of Starry Night is considered to be a mid-scale, measuring in at 73.7 by 92.1 centimeters, or 29 inches by 36.5 inches. Van Gogh was severely depressed during this time, so he chose to paint at night and night scenes. The painting includes large swirls of deep blue and white colors, perhaps to imitate the blowing of the wind. Yellow stars and a large eastern-facing crescent moon can be seen far off in the distance. Below the moon are mountains. The mountains and swirls are highlighted by a small idealized village from what we can see looks like to be a church. And on the far left of the painting is a large cypress tree that takes up much of the space. The lights from the small village homes pale in comparison to the brightness of the moon and the stars. Realistically speaking, it is not a proportional painting. Researchers have dated that Venus was visible during the spring of 1889, so it could be safe to assume that the brightest star directly to the right of the cypress tree in the painting is a depiction of the planet Venus. Critics and art connoisseurs around the world have deduced that Van Gogh's use of dark colors contrasted with bright yellows and whites creates a tone of hope within the darkness. Today, Starry Night is on display at the Museum of Modern Art and has been since 1941. Before it found its home in New York, Van Gogh had sent the finalized painting to his brother Theo in Paris, but less than after 6 months, Theo also died. After Van Gogh's brother died, his widow was the caretaker of Starry Night and multiple other paintings. In 1900, she sold it to a poet named Julien Lacroix, who in turn sold it to Emil Schirkennecker. Eventually, Theo's widow bought back the painting and sold it to the Oldenziel Gallery in Rotterdam in 1906, who eventually in 1938 sold it to Paul Rosenberg, and the painting found its home in the Museum of Modern Art in New York City in 1941. Generally speaking, Vincent van Gogh was unknown and unrecognized until his apparent suicide in 1890. The original purpose of the painting was most likely just a way for Van Gogh to relax and paint his emotions away.